I've been trading for 5 years, but I definitely could have become profitable a lot sooner if I had started out with the information that I have today, more specifically the daily cycles. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 daily cycles that I would use if I had to start all over again. Now there are actually currently 8 daily cycles that I use, but I didn't need all 8 to become profitable. I only needed 3 and the rest I added on later. And those are the 3 that I'm going to be telling you today. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a little while, the first 2 you probably would have heard me talk about before, but the last one I don't think I've mentioned on this channel. So let's get right into it. The first one I want to talk to you about is London Protraction, and this involves Asia Kill Zone, and it also involves London Kill Zone. So what we want to see in terms of price action in Asia Kill Zone is not a lot. We don't want to see Asia manipulating or doing anything crazy. Ideally, it's going to be kind of choppy price action where we essentially just see price build liquidity on both sides of the range. So maybe we make equal highs and equal lows. Maybe it's just an old high and an old low. Essentially, we just want it to build liquidity. And then when it comes to London Kill Zone, this is a bullish example. So ideally, you're going to have a liquidity target up above Asia Kill Zone. And when London opens, we want to see price move away from that. So we want to see price move lower first and actually take out the low of Asia Kill Zone. And then from there, once we see this, we're going to anticipate that price is going to run to the upside to the liquidity target. So when we're down here, that's where we want to navigate the entry and ride price up. So if we go ahead and we look at an example that I have here on the left, you can see very, very clearly that Asia didn't really do much, right? We moved to the upside and then we failed to move any higher. And we've simply just gone back and forth, right? It's just been choppy price action, which is essentially what I just described. We're building up liquidity. And then London Kill Zone opened up and immediately it moved lower, right? And we've taken out Asia's low down here. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that when price, takes out that Asia low, we want to see it reach into some kind of higher time frame PD array. So if we go onto the 4 hour, you can see that we have this 4 hour FVG down here. Okay, so that's going to be the higher time frame bullish PD array. And if I play this out a little bit more, you can see we do sweep further and we do reach into this 4 hour FVG. So now we're forming the start of that London protraction cycle. Okay, so once we see this, once we see price move immediately lower to take out Asia's low, we want to navigate some kind of entry because from here we're anticipating that London is going to expand to the upside. So in terms of entries, I simply just drop down onto the lower time frames and look for a CSD, right? So for price to form bullish PD arrays, which shows the switch from a sell program into the zone to now a buy program away from the zone and towards your higher time frame target. So once we see this, we form this bullish order block. You can simply use that for the entry, stop loss at the low, and we can target, whatever liquidity target that you had predetermined on the higher time frame. For this, we'll just use this high just because it's an example. And you can see we tap into the entry and then price moves to the upside. This is a perfect example of a London protraction. And in my previous video, I actually highlighted a key time for these London protractions where you want to actually take profits that allows you to increase your risk to reward. So if you were to actually use that teaching, you would have been able to take profits all the way, around here, right? You would have been able to like double your risk to reward. So I'll definitely go check that video out once you're done here. Now, the next daily cycle I would use if I had to start all over again is called New York Continuation. And essentially that involves London Kill Zone and New York Kill Zone. So what we want to see first from London Kill Zone is that price moves towards your target already. So we want to see London give a good impulse towards your target. And then we're essentially going to anticipate that New York continues that move. And there's a couple of key things that you want to see in order to validate the move in New York. So like I say, you want to see London run to the downside. And then in between sessions, this is very important. We want to see a pre-New York retracement, right? So we want to see price retrace into the start of New York. So we can keep retracing at the start of New York. And then we want to see New York continue to the downside. Now, obviously, we're going to need to see price tap into a higher time frame PD array within London session. And another key, characteristic of this is obviously London is going to hold, right? London high is going to hold. We just want to see New York continue that move to the downside. So that is essentially what a New York continuation cycle is. It's very, very simple. It's very, very consistent as well. You'll see that this happens very frequently. So if we jump onto this example, right, you can already see pretty clearly that we've had an impulse to the downside in London session, right? We've reached to the downside, and my target for this trade was actually somewhere beneath these lows. I'm pretty sure there's like a daily FVG beneath this low. I'm not going to get too much into that, but I remember there's a daily FVG beneath that low. So that essentially was my target. So you can see that London moved to the downside towards the target, but we hadn't reached it yet, which would give you a reason to want to see New York continue this move, okay? And then you can see here in between sessions. So this is a 10, this is 11, and this is 12. So in between sessions and the start of New York, we get that retracement, right? Price turns around, we retrace into this 1 hour FVG. So that's that higher time frame PD array within London. You can see London's higher is all the way up here and it gets respected. So once we see this, we're going to be expecting price to now move lower in New York session. So we want to get the entry up here, okay? And obviously with the London protraction, you have Asia as the liquidity sponsor, right? We sweep out Asia's kill zone. But on this, we're not sweeping a kill zone for liquidity. So we have to find liquidity on a different time frame, right? So simply just drop down on the time frames and see if price took out some kind of old high, some kind of equal highs into that 1 hour sell zone, okay? And you can see here that we have this old high up here, which was taken out. So that is the liquidity sponsor for the move. We're within the higher time frame array. We're waiting for price to move lower. So now, again, this is where we identify the entry. So if I play this out a little bit, you can see very nicely we get an aggressive move to the downside, which forms a bearish order block on the 5 minute. And we also form a bearish inverted fair value gap, right? Because we close through this bullish fair value gap here. So that is confirmation that price has gone from a buy program into the FVG now to being in a sell program towards the target. So that's where you can go ahead and put your entry. You can enter off the order block. I would go off of the inverted fair value gap just because there's no need to be greedy over how many is that, like 50 pips, okay? So you don't need to be greedy like that. You can just enter off the lowest PD array and you see that price taps into the entry very nicely, and then we start to move to the downside. Your first target would be here. Obviously, I know that there was a daily FVG down here. That was my target, so you could have gone for there. And yeah, you can see that price reaches very nicely for the first target, and then we do also reach the second target. But obviously, maybe you don't take my word for it that this is a daily FVG, whatever, then you can just look at it as this low was a target, which is still a 1 to 3. So a very clean trade and a really, really nice example of that New York continuation cycle. Now, this last daily cycle, I don't think I've actually said anything about it on this channel before, so let's get into that. But really quickly, I want to show you this flowchart I put together that's going to enable you to identify these 3 daily cycles in real time very easily. If you're trading London session, you simply open it up and you follow these steps. It will give you all the criteria for a valid London session daily cycle. And those key timings I spoke about earlier that increase the probability, they're included with the flowchart as well as my entries. So if you want to steal my entries, you can go ahead and do that. They're very high probability. And also for New York session, so you're trading New York, you come on here, you follow these steps. It'll give you all the criteria for these New York session daily cycles. And again, it includes the key timings that you want to see price form, the high or low of session within the kill zones. That increases the probability a lot. And again, my entries are included. So if you want access to this, all you have to do is click the link in the description. You can get it completely for free. So let's get right back into the video. This last cycle is called New York reversal. And just like New York continuation, it includes New York and London session. However, the formation is a little bit different. So essentially, when it comes to how London forms, it can do one of two things, right? London can either consolidate like Asia session does within the London protraction cycle and builds up liquidity, or London can impulse to the downside. Either way, we're going to want to see New York disrespect this session. So in a bearish example, we're going to want to see New York session disrespect London's high, right? Regardless of whether London moved lower or it simply just stayed in a consolidation, we are going to want to see London session's high get disrespected by New York session, and New York is actually going to form the high of the move. So once we see that, once we see New York open up and run above London kill zone, once we're up here, we're going to anticipate a move to the downside towards some kind of higher time frame target that you may have. Okay, so once we're up here, that's where we want to navigate the entry and we want to ride it to the downside. So let's have a look at a little example. So you can see here, we had London session run to the downside, but this got disrespected in between sessions. So obviously we know that New York session isn't going to go ahead and, run from here because it's disrespected by the time it even gets to New York, right? We've already taken out this London's high before New York session starts. So we know that's not a viable option. We know we can't play that New York continuation. So what can we play? Well, you can see here that price came back into this 1 hour fair value gap and we filled it in, right? So we've filled in the gap. We've actually rejected away, which is a good sign because we're respecting the FVG. And we've formed a high here in New York and we're above London kill zone. Okay, so this is the criteria for that New York reversal daily cycle. Now, when it comes to Asia session, again, you don't need to worry about what Asia does. It's not important. The important bit is that New York is above London session. So yeah, once we're up here, that's where we go ahead and navigate the entry. And if we go onto the 15-minute, you can see that these 4 consecutive bullish candles got closed beneath, which is essentially a formation of a bearish order block. So that's a CSD, which is the confirmation for the entry. Now, potentially you look at this 15-minute FVG, that basically the same level, so you can enter off of either of those. Stop loss can potentially go here. And yeah, that is essentially going to be the entry. Obviously, we're bearish on the higher time frame, so we're going to want to see the price run to the downside, at least to take out this low hit. So if I let this play out, you can see that price taps into that FVG. We reject away, which is a good sign, right? Just like with this larger FVG, how we didn't close through it. We've done the same thing here. We tapped into it, we didn't close through that FVG, and that's a good sign that price should now go and run to the target, which is exactly what happened. So these are the 3 daily cycles that I would personally use if I had to start all over again. Now, if you want to learn the rest of the 8 daily cycles as well as the key timers that come with them, and I have actually 6 in-depth technical courses, whether that's higher time frame, intraday, intermarket analysis, power free, you name it. I have a daily cycles program which is going to give you all of that, and you can start learning it today for free because it's got a free trial. So if you want access to that, I'm going to leave another link in the description. It's going to be under the link for the daily cycles flowchart. Now, as always, I hope you found value in this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.